Hello and welcome to this episode of the Star Wars Universe Podcast. Today we're talking about The Mandalorian, Season 2, Episode 2. We're going to talk about giant spiders. We're going to talk about how does so much life happen on ice planets. We're going to talk about, now that the New Republic has things pretty much under control, isn't there anything X-Wings can do more than be traffic cops? All that and more after this commercial break we have no control over. Welcome back. I'm Matthew. I'm your host. We're going to have kind of a rotating cast of people coming in for the Mandalorian episodes. And today we have once again Jeff Randle and Ashley Coffin. Starting with Jeff, how are we doing today?
Fantastic, sir. I'm going to be here the whole time. I promise. I promise I'm not going to flake out at all.
There might have been a D&D game that got overrun by a game that he was playing with his family. But it was... you were on a house, it was on a hill, and you were betrayed. So
I was betrayed by a 13-year-old.
Yes.
Oh, oof. Playing games with the family, always a bad idea.
Oof.
Just make next time, just threaten his college fund. Ashley, how are we doing today?
Oh, I'm great. I feel tremendous. I feel like a big weight's been lifted off my shoulders. And, I'm talking about Star Wars. No reason. I just, what could it possibly be?
Great things happened in Philly.
No, I think it was episode 2 of Mando.
Star Wars is set. Mandalorian is set in a universe where the great evil has been defeated, but now we're trying to figure out what comes next. So it's like, it's got no connection to our own world. We're just trying to figure it all out. So
yeah, it's completely irrelevant.
Nothing.
What did we think about this episode? Because I'm going to say it was not my favorite so far. But what are some other people's thoughts?
Should I get the rage out off the top? Like, just a little rage. I'm like, listen, you're only doing 8. They're like 8 episodes, right?
Right.
I didn't want this. I mean, It was fun and it looked pretty and all the stuff that it usually does, but you only have 8 episodes. Give me my story.
Right? Give me my overarching story. Give me the Giancarlo Esposito Empire guy, whatever his name is.
Right.
I don't. Moff Gideon. That's Moff Gideon. One. Who cares? I want him back. There's 2 episodes now that we're into this series, and he's not back yet. You showed me he has a Darksaber, or the Darksaber. You showed me that he survived the TIE fighter crash. Where is he? Damn it!
Yeah. He's off running Vought.
He's busy running Vought, pharmaceutical company in a different universe.
Funny. I was recognizing that some of our feedback was backing up, and I wanted to make sure we got to some of that on an episode soon. And then I was like, oh, well, there's not going to be much plot to talk about in this episode. So,
God,
I don't need. We've talked before about how not every episode is super driven by the Uber plot, and I like that because.
But they still need a little bit.
You need a little bit of the Uber plot, but more importantly, you need an interesting story. It needs to be, we're trying to find the Mandalorian armor, and while we're doing that, we're going to wind up battling a crate dragon. Like, that has nothing to do with the overall quest to find the Mandalorians and to find Yoda a home, but it's a great story. Mm-hmm. Whereas, we upset some spiders, and then the spiders chase us. Like, it just felt like a B-movie action plot,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it honestly, it felt like a B plot in a different series.
Yeah.
It felt like the B plot was the whole thing. And then ended up the B plot was like, how do we keep the kid off of the eggs? The kid, can I say it?
Little monster.
The child was an asshole this episode.
Oh, yeah. I'm, and like...
You get one.
I've never obviously been the parent of a toddler, and I know that like toddlers get into trouble, and it's not, there's some degree of... It's funny because with Baby Yoda, on the one hand, it's like, oh, he's a toddler, he doesn't understand, but also he does seem to understand a lot. He's eating away at this woman's literal eggs. Like, that's horrifying.
End of their civilization, like the hope of their civilization.
And then, and I know we may get into this a little bit here. Like, okay, the spiders are disgusting, they're terrible, they're scary. The show gives us every reason to think that we should be like cheering as they get slaughtered. But the spiders only attacked because Yoda came along and was like, oh, look, your eggs. I'm going to munch on one.
Yeah, nom nom nom.
like I want our characters to get home safe, but I was not like, no, Spider's got to defend, like fuck around and find out.
Do you think that? Hey, don't use my catchphrase.
That's Philly's catchphrase. Come on.
I feel like, do you think that's why they turned up the baby noises for him a lot? Like the whole time it felt like a Baby Alive doll was running around. He was like, and he's done it like they have him do it before, but Baby Yoda was like extra baby this time.
It felt that way, especially because he didn't use any of his powers at all. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a number of times where it felt like if Baby Yoda had kind of reached out and used the Force, like, we could have, like, protected some of those spiders and gotten away. Or even just, like, he could have killed the spiders and not had everything go wrong.
We had to see, like, Lady Frog save him after he's eaten, I don't know, like 6 of the last of, her baby kind. And she still saved him. And then he still ate another one.
She knows. I don't think that she knows that he's eaten them. And then, like, at the end of the episode, he's looking at her like, she's obviously protecting these eggs. Like, it's very obvious that she is protecting these eggs and she wants me to not eat them. Oh, by the way, let me slurp one more down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they were trying to go for, like, look, he's being mischievous and cute, but it did not come across. It came across as he's just being a shitty person.
You're like, it's not mischievous and cute when you're eating the literal race or the these
family line.
You're consuming the family line of a sentient race. That's not cool.
Nope.
Right. And though we've seen him specifically notice that,
I think it's crazy that Baby Yoda can eat anything that's alive. It seems like he just like spider thing. That thing didn't bother him. He can eat these eggs.
Frogs.
Like anything that's like a little living thing, he could just eat them.
Look, some people just make Constitution their stat, They've got 20.
Iron stomach.
Yeah. I mean, there's other stuff to talk about, but yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, Jeff, because it just made the whole second half of the episode not really work for me because, we've talked before about how the people making a show will like make a creature or an alien race or whatever look disgusting and scary and horrible and like play on your worst fears, often like, be it racial or monsters or whatever, in order to make you root against them. And they clearly did that with the spiders. Like someone was like, okay, take a spider nightmare. Mm-hmm. No, that's not scary enough. Like make it scary. Mm-hmm. Make it scarier.
Give it a squid mouth.
Yeah. Make it just a little bit of a Cthulhu spider.
Make them swarm because that's what got like all of a sudden they were just everywhere.
Yeah. And then
the
whole time
give it
was like
more teeth.
More teeth.
Yeah, I really wanted them to find a way to like get away, and like for some point Mando to be like, no, you shouldn't have done that. Like, we want to live, we're gonna get away, but like that wasn't the spiders' fault. They're defending their home.
I did kind of love the whole time. He's like, no. I said no every time. He's really trying.
He's really trying to defend the sentient race and her eggs, so that she can get to a different place where it's habitable for her kind and fertilize them so that, maybe her species will survive.
Yeah.
It's not important or anything.
Oh, it's just another
Do we
Tuesday
really
for
need
Mando.
Another race of, that race of frog people to go on?
Honestly,
I don't think we get to decide that for them.
Well, I need Baby Yoda to live.
He can eat literally anything else.
Yeah.
Anything else, not these.
So Paul decided not to join us for this episode. He was just not able to. And also, I think he had some pretty strong objections to it. But he did point out that first we got Star Wars Tremors, and now we have Star Wars Arachnophobia. Yep. So we should definitely think about like what other episodes are going to be based on 80s or 90s B-movie horror movies.
Cool.
Because clearly that's the direction we're going.
Yep. And honestly, like,
next week's Friday the 13th. Maybe they'll do Freddy.
If I'm being 100% honest, I did not necessarily like the way that the spiders got resolved.
Yeah.
Because like what was it? There was just laser blasts starting from outside, and like, okay, it's the X-Wing pilots, but then he goes walking outside just like, I'm going to look around and I'm going to take a look, and then goes outside and they're just they're sitting like leaning out of, It's a couple of redneck bros leaning out of the back of their trucks with their laser rifles, like, ooh, let's get us some spiders, boy.
Yeah, I mean, you say redneck. Honestly, what I thought of is like the cops from Lovecraft Country. Like, not that they were racist or terrible, although they were kind of terrible in other ways, but just that kind of like down home, yeehaw, we caught you speeding kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's go into that more. What do you think of the whole like idea of X-Wing? Because they set that up so much like a traffic cop situation, you know?
Yeah.
Down to the whole like the cop gets a little nervous and like puts his hand on his holster as like the S foils, you know, shifting into attack position.
Yep.
How'd you guys feel about the role of the X-Wings in this whole episode?
This episode could have gone in such a different direction right then. Mm-hmm. Like if instead of it being like a chase into we wrecked in a cavern to, oh crap, there's these giant ice spiders or something, and then they save us. Like there could have been a situation where like the Razor Crest and one of the X-Wings collided and they had to work through their differences while also fighting against the spiders. That could have been fun.
Yeah,
that would have been really good. Yeah.
Like we could have had another situation where, like a Republic shock trooper, similar to Cara Dune. It's right after it's so easy to say that sentence. Right after, it would have been a similar situation to, Cara Dune, and why is he still in the Republic? Why is he patrolling? What has the Republic done for him? Where's the Republic going? Find out more about the Republic.
Yeah.
Like all of these things could have been done if we had just had one of those two pilots in that situation with them. And, it could have been just one of them. And then the other one would have been patrolling and looking for him. And like, they're trying to reach him on the radio, but it's scrambled because we're in a cave, anything like that. Like I'm writing a better one right now.
Yeah. And like, I think we did get some interesting stuff. Like, I feel like part of what we're supposed to get out of that is that the New Republic is starting to like just, try to be an established, nation with police and laws and regulations. And they're already in that place of like everything being super bureaucratic, and not willing to actually like listen to things. But I don't know what what they wanted us to feel about the X-Wing pilots, because, they're, at first they seem to be just like going through the motions and they're fine, and Mando's kind of a criminal, so like I don't blame them at that point. Although turning to like destroy, generally like if someone runs from the cops in a car chase, you're not supposed to like shoot their car to stop them if all you know is like their tags are missing or something. But so then they come at the very end to rescue him, and then they seem kind of like genuinely decent guys. They're like, technically we should arrest you, but you've done this cool stuff, so we're happy to kind of look the other way. So we're going to totally let you off by flying away while your ship is totally broken and we have no way to know that you have any way to live.
We're abandoning you here, but it's okay because we didn't arrest you.
What the, I'd be like, no, arrest him, take him to jail.
Like at this point, please arrest me because it's really my only way out of here.
There's a giant spider thing the size of my ship on my ship. How am I supposed to get that off?
Right?
Yeah.
Can you shoot it a bit more so that it falls off?
I find it all just confusing because as someone who doesn't know as much as you guys do, and I keep coming back to like the time frame, I see those X-Wings and I think good guys, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what we had ingrained in us, is that TIE fighters are bad guys, X-Wings are good guys.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But then, once the Empire is done and a new government has to be established, those X-Wings then become what? Military? Mm-hmm. Cops, apparently?
Yeah.
Traffic cops?
Right.
And I feel like the chase in the beginning of the episode, like, it really kind of put a weird spin on, like, in a car chase, you always see, like, oh, they're chasing him and they're, he's speeding along the interstate and weaving in and out of traffic, and the cops are going after him, but like the cops can never really talk to the person other than like on a loudspeaker.
Right.
Yeah.
But then in this one, it's just like, come on, man.
Please don't.
Come on, Razor Crest.
I kind of loved how they were like,
I loved that they were able to do that, but it was weird, you know?
Yeah. No, it totally was. I mean, many, many years ago when I was a kid, I remember being at a New York Knicks playoff game and going up to get a hot dog and then stopping because on TV, O.J. Simpson was running from the cops. Oh, and it was like all anyone cared about. And when I got back to my seat, like they were showing it on the Jumbotron while people were trying to play basketball. And it was just like that to me is always my definitive idea of like a real world chase. And like, yeah, the cops didn't try to shoot his car. They knew if they kept following him forever, eventually he'd have to park somewhere and they could get him. You know, granted there was a whole like suicide thing. It was a very complicated thing, but like that's what I think of. And so yeah, this felt so weird. I also did not love, and granted, you know, whatever you want to claim about how space physics work and like you can fly a ship with all sorts of holes in it. Okay, I'm rolling my eyes, but fine. But then like they had to basically be like, look, it's such a broken, it's like the hood, you know, pops open. Like
yeah.
With that back hatch open. I was like, just come on. That's not what we need to be talking about.
Right.
Some positive things though. I loved the frog character. And my one hope about this being an episode where not much happened is it does seem like it's a two-parter, you know, because clearly like the rest of the journey and the frog I think are definitely going to be a big part of the next episode.
I'm not so certain. I want it to be, but I feel like the beginning of this episode was the epilogue for the first episode, and I feel like they're going to kind of do that crap again.
I mean, I feel like, but the husband frog still.
Frogsband.
You know,
it's okay.
Frogsband. Yeah, there we go. Frog Dad.
Frog Dad.
Frog Dad, like apparently knows all the information, so that maybe that's going to be a connection there. But just like the idea, first of all, at one point my subtitles came on and it just said "Frog Lady speaks frog."
Frog Lady speaks frog. I have that written down in my notes, and from there on, she's just Frog Lady.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh man, I didn't have.
I hope he brings
the
that
subtitles on.
Oh no.
And later Mando says, "I don't speak." Like generally, like every other race, like we even have hammerhead sharks, but they have a name. They're like the Ichthonians or something like that. But these weren't the like, you know, reptilians or something. They were just frog. They were just the frogs.
Big frogs that wear clothes.
Yep.
I hope that he brings that robot because he's not going to be able to get from Frog Dad where the Mandos are because he doesn't speak frog.
Right.
Yeah,
Speaking to the mic.
The robot is universal translator. That's kind of a fun idea.
He's got a translator bot that is the Richard Ayoade bot, which I'm so happy about.
So one thing we established earlier is that Mando does not know anything about the Jedi. You know, these enemy sorcerers. And clearly he's not heard any of the references, any of the ideas. And yet the Republic troops, like their closing is, "May the Force be with you." And he kind of, you know, kind of like, you know, when your super religious grandmother, you know, says something to you, he kind of says that back, you know, "May the Force be with you." What do we think that it's just sort of like a phrase that people know, even though most people have no idea what it is or don't connect it to the Jedi at all? Like, what was your take on that?
Well, if you remember last episode, the mechanic lady that also showed up in this one, whenever she first saw Baby Yoda, she was like, "Oh, thank the Force that he's okay." Huh. And it seems like people know about the Force, maybe, right. Or if it's just like the Force is like the substitute for the word God in this one, or in this this verse or whatever. Like it's I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird that like it just got substituted out, but nobody knows about Jedi, or he doesn't know about Jedi. Yeah. But then again, like my kids have not been raised in a Christian home, so anytime a Christian story is mentioned, they're like, "Who? What? Who is that?"
Yeah, or "May peace be with you," or whatever us Catholics say.
Yeah, peace be with you.
Lift us up. Lift us up today. Anyway.
Lift up your hearts. Ding-a-ling-a-ling.
I definitely get that. Like some people just like the phrase, they use the phrases. Like one thing that occurs to me a lot is the word bloody that gets used a lot in Great Britain and sort of that version of English. There's a couple of different theories I've heard for where that word comes from, but one of the ones that I've heard that I think that the linguists I've talked to say, is at least one of the more substantial theories, is that it's a derivation of "by Our Lady," which is a very religious phrase, and that it's eventually just become this word that no one even remembers has these religious connotations, and kind of in the same way, like people who are total atheists say, like, "Oh my God," So
right.
but that takes hundreds of years generally, like
Yeah.
Not
I feel like we should start the "Oh My Bacon" movement.
Oh my bacon.
Okay, I could do that.
Maybe that was all part of the Jedi. Like they were able to like get themselves out like of people's minds by some like force of the Jedi, and then they just and then they just forgot, to take some other parts out.
They just Jedi mind trick the galaxy.
Yeah, together as one.
We were never here.
We were never here, and they're like, did anybody forget? They're like, Harry, did you remember to throw the Force in there? And Harry's like, uh-oh. They'll just
it makes you really wonder, like, what do people know about what happened to the Empire? Because we saw in the last episode that people have like watched this video of the Death Star blowing up, and we know from the later movies that like Luke Skywalker was a legend. But I'd be curious, like, what are this? I'd love at some point for them to like walk in on someone who's watching the like History Channel, documentary about the fall of the Empire or something like that.
David Attenborough brings you the fall of an empire.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, that'd be so good.
And then we sorry. If you remember all the letters and stuff from like the Civil War. It's like, my dearest love.
Oh, yeah.
I do long to be off this Death Star and back home with you again someday.
Yeah,
all these damn Jedi. People are like, what's a Jedi? I don't know.
There's a guitar thing I learned a long time ago called "A Shogun's Farewell," and it's just this it's the tune that like played all the time in the Ken Burns drama, and it's such a beautiful little tune.
That's funny. I think one of the important things...
Go ahead.
Dang it. I think one of the important things to mention, like, just kind of in general, when we're talking about that, like, people were watching, on TV, the Death Star blowing up, that was not just on TV, them watching, that was in a town that, like, nobody remembered existed, wasn't on any new maps, in the Outer Rim, in like a backwater planet. Like, this was the most remote place, and they had a TV to watch the Death Star blowing up. So like, information is present, it's available. So it's really inconsistent how like maybe this guy doesn't know who the Jedi are.
Yeah,
like,
someone can't just do weird. Google search Luke Skywalker. Oh, he's part of this group. Okay.
Galactic Google search.
Yeah. The one thing I did really like is I thought they did some interesting things with the Mandalorian and his code. The Frog Lady does at one point say, or Frog Mom.
Yeah.
She at one point says, like, because he wants to just give up on his mission, and I don't quite understand. Like she wants to get him to help fix the ship and go along on her mission, but he's like, nah, the mission's off. But he still has to fix their ship and go. Like, I don't quite understand what's happening there.
I feel like he was just kind of like, the ship's broken. I'm too stressed out right now to deal with this. I'm pissed about it. I just want to take a nap. I'll deal with it in the morning.
Yeah.
And she's like, post haste.
Yeah.
He was just done with it. And then she's like, up and at him.
Yeah. Get up,
Mandalorian.
What I liked was, what she gets him is when he says, like, don't you have this allegiance to the code? And
wrote, isn't that part of your code?
At that moment. And what I really liked is that when he's deciding, he looks at the child. Mm-hmm. And at least what I got out of it, again, because of his great body acting, was the sense of, like,
I have to set a good example.
I can't let down the foundling. Like, this is the way. If I was on my own, maybe, but like, I can't look bad in his eyes. I have to show him what the way is. And the way is, we made a promise, we keep the promise.
Yeah, we don't eat the promises babies.
Yeah, maybe I'll stop eating the babies if I show him she's important.
Yeah.
We care about her and her feelings.
He's like, oh, what'd you say?
He's like, oh, her feelings taste delicious.
Tastes good.
So weird.
It was weird. And
1 or 2 was fine. But, like, to keep doing it, like, he's a baby, he's stupid.
Okay, yeah. Like, doing it once, and then, the 1 or 2 quick ones, and then, like, no, don't do this again. And then he sees that she's protective of them, and then they maybe bond a little bit. She's protecting him, and then she's also protecting the eggs. And then maybe we start to see some puppet acting of, like, Baby Yoda feels bad for eating them. Yeah. Maybe he barfs one up and gives it to her.
Aww.
Because he just ate them whole. Like, anything like that. Or maybe they find that, like, his belly is the best incubation chamber. I don't know.
I don't want to go alien. No, but I get your point. I feel like, to me, the moment that really made it go from, like, that was a bad joke, you took too far, to, wait, this is making me question this character, this is not cool, was when, like, after, like you said, he's had that moment. Clearly, even to his level of cognition, he understands how important these eggs are to the person who just saved them. And like I said, he just pops one more in his mouth.
Yeah, he's just like, I see why she wants to keep these. They're tasty. Gross.
Little jerk.
You're the worst, Baby Yoda. You are the worst.
So anything more on this episode, or should we jump into some feedback?
Let's do feedback, unless you... I mean, I honestly am I'm so disappointed. Not disappointed. It was a good episode, but, like... I wanted more,
Yeah. I mean, we had such promise in the beginning where he's on his speeder, and like we get the cut between him being on his speeder and this group of people setting a trap for him with the rope and everything. Yeah. And
oh yes,
I will say the openings are amazing so far. Completely love the openings.
That thing with the rope, like Steve McQueen used that to take down Nazis on motorcycles in The Great Escape, a movie that's made in like the 60s or maybe in the 50s, So like it was kind of cool to see that exact same trick still be being played this many years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, isn't that something that the Ewoks did in Return?
Oh yeah, no, they totally did.
Was that Jawa in the beginning, or something different?
They had that kind of weird face there. I don't think it was a Jawa. I think it was something else.
Okay.
It was something else. Right now it's a pancake.
That was so funny. It was so funny. And I love that Baby Yoda was like, he was like, shoulders. What are you going to do?
Oh my God, that was so good.
Shoulders.
Yeah, I think that's one of the worst, but those first 5 minutes were fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, what happened? Where did this go sideways?
It all went sideways when we had to make a deal with a giant cockroach ant insect.
Oh yeah, that
at
was
poker.
Awesome.
That was playing Sabak.
Who was also named generally, like I said, I don't know what happened in this episode. Generally, we come up with interesting names for all the species, but we had Frog Lady and Dr. Mandible.
Mandible.
That was.
I'm not entirely certain that that's actually his name. That might have just been something that she called him.
Okay.
They said it in the what's it called? When he would talk, the subtitles said like Dr. Mandible.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. They didn't put a lot into this one.
Yeah, it kind of felt like somebody packed up a bunch of things that were just kind of like half-baked ideas and handed it off to the director and just like, do something with this. And he's like, okay. Mm-hmm. And do you know who directed this one?
No.
Who?
Peyton Reed.
Oh, okay. I also
the guy who did Ant-Man.
Oh, okay. I have to remind myself that it's also like Disney. It's like PG tween or whatever Disney's supposed to be, and I have to start giving them a little bit more allowances for storyline and stuff with that.
I don't think you have that many decapitations and like brutal killings on a tween show as we did in season 1.
I mean,
people being cut in half by doorways.
Did you watch? Yeah. Go watch Riverdale. We'll come back and have a conversation.
Riverdale should never be a point of reference for anything.
Do not make me go get Julie.
It is not, it is not William Fisk and the door in Daredevil season 1, but it's still, something's happening. Anyway,
yeah.
Let's go on to feedback. This is gonna be more about first one about Mando specifically, and then the other one more about Star Wars in general. But something you and I, Jeff, talked about. Dino Dean from Wales, in the United Kingdom. Dino, if you're listening, please also tell us if I got the derivation of bloody totally wrong. But Dino writes in, actually, Jeff, do you want to try and do this in a Welsh accent if I send it to you?
Nope.
Okay, never mind. Just listen to your podcast about the Mando hype. I was thinking, could Moff Gideon be a high-ranking Mandalorian that has joined the Empire? It could explain why he knows our Mandalorian by name, and obviously why he has the Darksaber. Love all the podcasts that you guys do, Star Trek, Star Wars, MCU. Keep up the good work, from Dino in Wales.
Oh, man.
Dino,
that's a good
love
call.
that.
Yeah,
that would be a great call, because the Darksaber was so important to Mando culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a little bit of research on it. The Darksaber was crafted, like, it's a lightsaber that was crafted by, like, the only Mandalorian to ever become a Jedi. And just the way that they crafted it caused it to be that black blade like it is.
Interesting.
And so, like, for him to have that, and they, like, whenever they raided the Jedi Temple, I think it was, when Coruscant was attacked, they raided the Jedi Temple and took that Darksaber back. So it was reclaimed by the Mandalorians. Okay. So, you know, either he has it because he grabbed it during the Great Purge, or maybe he was a Mando that defected and became part of the Empire.
And I'm going to be very careful about spoilers here, but one thing they establish in the there's going to have some mild spoilers for Star Wars Rebels, so if you really want to not hear any details about that, skip ahead maybe a minute. But I'll be very, very vague. But in both Star Wars Clone Wars and even more so in Star Wars Rebels, they establish that there's various factions within the Mandalorians, and that by the Rebels, some of those factions are working directly with the Empire, and that in the battle for like rulership over Mandalore between these two groups who are pro and anti-Empire, like who has the Darksaber, who has the black saber, is incredibly important as a like sign of like this is the sort of the mantle of leadership. So yeah, I think that could make a lot of sense. The question is then why our hero doesn't recognize. Well, no, he does. Doesn't he say like, "Oh, that must be Moff Gideon"?
I don't remember.
I think they both recognize each other, or he says like, if that's him, he has to know.
Would he recognize him without his armor if they had met? Like, wouldn't Moff Gideon have always had his helmet on if he was a Mando?
Well, but I think what he says is something like, if he knows who I am, then it must be this one.
Oh, okay.
So it might be more that he knows like Moff Gideon is the Mandalorian who defected or whatever.
Okay. Because he wouldn't recognize him to see him.
Yeah. That's something to keep an eye out for if they ever bring Moff Gideon back.
He's busy.
God, if we ever get that story again.
He's off making chicken.
Well, yeah.
El Pollo, I think they're called. El Pollo's in space?
Yep.
It was, Los Hermanos?
Pollo Hermanos.
Pollo Hermanos, yeah.
The chicken is my brother?
We would now have two shows on which that actor Esposito is completely underutilized twice. Like, I loved The Boys, but I kept wanting more of him in season 2. So
give me more Mr. Edgar.
Maybe that's why they know how to just dangle it in front of us enough, and then they take it away, and we're like, oh, we just want more.
I could use a little more dangling, you know.
Don't dangle your Giancarlo Esposito in front of me.
I will dangle.
All right, so this other piece of feedback is not about Mandalorian, but Jeff, it's about an episode you and I did. A movie probably, Ashley, you've seen as well. Chris Oman writes, "Hey guys, this is my first time writing in, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for putting in the time and effort to create such an amazing podcast. I love listening to you dive into a universe that I grew up loving and love to this day. With all of that being said, I wanted to point out something I believe you guys missed when discussing A New Hope. In the episode, Matthew made a comment where he said that in the prequels, Anakin had met Owen and Beru and had mentioned their last name being Skywalker. However, in episode 2, when Anakin confronts Watto about his mother, Watto says he sold her to someone named Lars. Owen and Beru's last name was Lars, not Skywalker. So Vader looking for Luke on Tatooine makes perfect sense for two reasons. One, because Anakin was under the impression that his children, he didn't know there were two, had died along with Padme. And two, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru's last name was not the same as Luke's. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to read this. Hopefully I'll get to hear back from you. Keep up the great work, and may the Force be with you. Always." Well, Chris, thank you so much. May the Force be with you. This is I think we just flat out got that one wrong.
I just completely forgot that was their last name.
Yeah, like I do still have some questions about like, you know, what the connection there was and how easily like when we talked about The Empire Strikes Back, we talked about like Vader maybe starting to like try and move away from the Emperor and maybe trying to like find Luke on his own. I wonder like when it started to occur to him that maybe something was still alive. Maybe one of his kids was still alive, or maybe something was happening. But I think he's right. That certainly the thing that I'd pointed out as evidence that it hadn't happened is just clearly not true, because the last name was not the same.
Right.
I would hope it'd be like the Force. You know how he's like, I know Padme was alive. I could feel her.
She was alive. I felt it.
Yeah. He probably kept getting, like, what's that? A son? Maybe.
You feel that? Feels like a
son.
Feels like a sun. It's weird.
It's like over here.
It's in this part of the room.
I think I need to go see the ship doctor.
It's like waving his hand in the corner, like it's weird. It's like,
Yeah, so we had one more piece of feedback. And this actually came as part of the Stranded Panda Chat, which is a group on Facebook, which if you're not part of, I strongly recommend. It's where we discuss a lot of Star Wars stuff. We discuss a lot of MCU stuff, other things related to the Stranded Panda Network, as well as just share some memes and tease Ashley every Thursday morning after Wednesday night trivia and the numerous drinks that she and Carol consume.
I don't know what you're talking about, Sam, teasing her. Like, I'm waiting for proof of life every Thursday morning.
I remember one time I didn't check in till like 9, and when I looked at the phone, it was like 27 missed messages. Everyone's like, where is she? Is she alive? I'm like, oh, they know.
We are a helpful community. We're going to do it. We're ready to do an intervention when it gets to that point. But
it'll
we're not
be
there
so
yet.
boring if you do that.
But anyway, so Nathaniel Muzzy, who's one of our most active pandas, and thank you, Nathaniel, he wrote in, pretty disappointed that this episode decided to do a papers, please, cops are really just good guys doing their job take. Felt really tone deaf. The joking about Baby Yoda eating the eggs was a little weird when they repeatedly tell us how important the eggs are to the mother frog. The clear alien reference was neat. Yeah, with the eggs. It's very much from Aliens 2. I believe it's Aliens 2. Overall, I'm a little down on this episode after last week's amazing return. Can't wait to hear what your all thoughts of it are on the cast. Well, thanks, Nathaniel. Hope you're going to enjoy what we talked about today and give us some more feedback. But what do you guys think about what he had to say?
It appears we agree.
Yeah, I feel like that was pretty much everything we talked about.
Yeah.
Except I felt like with the X-Wings, weren't they like, I saw them like, is this what like the good cops are? Like were they trying to show like these are what like the good cops, which definitely is a little tone deaf for now. But when I see those planes, I think good guys. And I feel like a lot of people kind of would. It's very confusing.
I felt like on one hand we were supposed to have a little bit of like, these guys are not quite the good guys we think they are. Sometimes they're just kind of like workaday bureaucrat, whatever. But I felt like the episode did not have any coherent sense of what it was trying to say about the X-Wing traffic cops. So I don't have an ability to say like what kind of statement were they making about our own police situation in this country or in this world, because I have no idea what they were trying to say because it was so all over the place.
Yeah, not to get too political, but I worry that this episode was trying to say something along the lines of, if you had just stopped and talked to the police and done as they asked, then it would have been okay. You wouldn't have gotten spiders. Like, this is how you get spider squids.
Yeah. See, not that little monster that shouldn't be eating everything's babies.
That's interesting because I didn't get that. I actually got quite the opposite, which was because it sounded like part of what they were saying was, look, we know the problem was that Mandalorian had like done something that was technically wrong and so had to be like dealt with technically.
He had a warrant for breaking a prisoner out,
right?
Which is what happened in season 1, episode 6,
right? Well,
so he broke the prisoner out, but also risked his life. Like, apparently, the everything that they used right there all came from that one episode. He hasn't done anything else noteworthy at all in the galaxy. But
I thought the thing that they say at the beginning of the episode, before they find him and talk to him, when it's just like, oh, hey, has your vehicle been near this particular place? Like, that's what happens when he turns on the transponder. And that's when he, makes a break for it. I thought that was something different.
Well, yeah, I think that was them checking on his vehicle.
His
right.
wing.
Later when they said, we ran your tabs.
Right. But that's like when he runs for the first time.
Right.
But either way, I guess my sense was I didn't, Jeff, get your sense of like that they're trying to say, like, these are good cops doing a good job, and if you just cooperate, everything's fine. Because I think what they're trying to say is, like, the Mandalorian, it almost felt to me a lot like Firefly in that moment of, like, the Mandalorian is leading, like, a kind of a little bit outside the law, but, like, doing good things, doing the right thing. And the cops are just going to see, like, nope, he broke this particular regulation, so we're going to take him in and not listen to any explanations.
The spot that I'm looking at for that evidence is the end of it, where the cops have the clear opportunity to shoot Mando over and over and over again, for leading them on this chase and running, whatever. And they end up just shooting the spiders around him, very close to him. Like, both of these guys are crack shots with these laser rifles, apparently. And they have the clear opportunity to shoot him, but instead they just save him from the spiders. And they're like, hey, we ran your tabs. We know you're a bad guy, but you've done good things. So,
right.
We're going to let you off this time.
Yeah.
You're welcome for saving you from the spiders. Bye.
And I wonder if maybe that's why it felt so incoherent, is because they were trying so hard not to be seen as taking, like, a stance that was relevant to our own world. They wound up just, like, being kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they had probably written this at a time where, the certain events of the world had not quite happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were recording it and like, ooh, yeah, maybe we need to change some of these things a little bit here and there. And honestly, they probably should have just scrapped it and gone with a different story. Like, I would have been more okay with a hastily made story that was at least mostly coherent, rather than whatever the hell this was.
Yeah. Perfectly said.
I am still so interested in, the story of, like, what happens after you try to, put the pieces back together. Like, this is a theme that comes up in our own world, but I think has often been dealt with in fiction, especially fiction about, like, revolutions or rebellions or of any kind, whether it's, like, historical, modern day, or, space fantasy. Yeah.
Or elections that really go your way when you need them to.
Yeah, it's like, it's easy to easy to tear something else down. It's a lot harder.
But what do you put in its place?
Yeah, and I feel like that's part of what this is exploring that I really like is, the New Republic is trying to do the right thing, but they're becoming pretty, like, bumbling, bureaucratic, the things people hate about the Old Republic, of it being like,
right,
and so I thought,
and that's why Cara Dune left.
Yeah. Exactly. And so, like, I didn't mind they did the thing with the space cops, but I agree I think they were a little they were trying so hard not to take any kind of stand that they just wound up being kind of incoherent, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. And they, like I said earlier, this episode could have been something really great. And, like, especially with, I even see where it could have happened when he did the weird power slide around the cloud in the sky. Like, one of the X-Wings could have just been, real gung-ho. He could have been this would have been even better. Could have been the young fighter pilot who was like, I didn't get much taste of the war, but I'm all for Republic and rules and, let's do this Republic thing. He could have been super gung-ho and just punched through the cloud. And instead of going around it, he flies through the cloud. Maybe there's electrical, electrical interference that messes up his X-Wing, and it just goes into, dead flight and just crashes right into the Razor Crest, and they both fall.
That could have been so good.
That would have been good.
And then he has this young gung-ho cop has to learn why all of the things that he thinks that are so great about the Republic are actually maybe not so good, or why necessarily the rules might need to be bent, or whatever. Like, learn from the Mandalorian, and the Mandalorian learn from him. Like, so many good things could have happened in this episode,
right? Well, and even then, you could, because it would definitely be something where, like, the cop gets saved by the Mandalorian or others being kind of selfless, so that works in. But especially, you could do it with what if there's some kind of warrant out for Frog Lady for some reason or another? but she's also a part of it, because now she's at least an interesting part of the story instead of just, the thing that Yoda steals the baby eggs from.
I feel like that would have been a little cliche, though.
Yeah.
Like if Mando had not had a warrant, if it had been her, like, oh yeah, okay, so mechanic lady met her 10 minutes earlier than Mando, trusts her with her life, probably just paid her a lot of money, whatever, and then like, oh, it turns out that she's got a bounty, and like,
yeah, no, you're
she's
right.
She's got some sort of trigger, right? She's a murder frog.
You see the wake
it's
of
okay
bodies.
that Baby Yoda ate all of her eggs.
I want to go to Frog Planet at some point. That makes me so happy.
We probably will. We better after that get at least 2 minutes on Frog Planet when he's like, right? And this is where the Mandos are.
Yeah, man. I will say, I had never really realized quite how much Star Wars had determined that, like, flying your ship through the innards of another ship or through a canyon or something like that needs to be an essential pilot skill. Like, it comes up in a lot of the movies and TV shows. Until I started playing this game, Star Wars Squadrons, which is all about, like, flying X-Wings and flying TIE Fighters. And one of the first missions is, like, flying through the wreckage of an abandoned Super Star Destroyer.
That's cool.
So clearly, like, they're very committed to, like, this is actual pilot training, is to fly through, like, canyons and wreckage. Yes, you're in a starship that's supposed to fight in open space, but, surprise, here you go.
Yeah.
It's dual purpose. I gotta say, though, like, visually speaking, like, from a VFX perspective and from an imagery perspective, just as far as cinematography in general, like, the X-Wings flying through the sky in and around clouds, with chasing the Razor Crest, like, all of that was beautiful.
So beautiful.
It was so pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It was really nice. And also, I mean, as much as I hated how terrifying and how scary and how just ugly and monstrous they made the spiders look, the shots when they were in the, like, ice cave and they could look up and through the ice see the reflection, like, see the blurred vision through the ice of the spider. I thought that was really
It's creepy. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
Some good effects. All right. Any Ashley, I know Jeff and I have had a lot to say. Any other kind of last words from you?
No, I'm pretty good. I think that was about it. Yeah, I'm all set. No spiders ever.
No spiders ever.
Team no spiders.
So Ashley's okay with killing all the spiders.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe, like, I personally feel like maybe get off of the giant critter. Like, don't make the Mandalorian a creature feature, please.
Yeah, please.
It kind of has been in these 2 episodes so far this season.
Yeah.
Like, give me more political stuff.
Yeah. Well, show me a lightsaber.
And, like, at least, I mean, the Krayt Dragon, like, you could see it as being kind of aggressive. Like, maybe we're building a settlement on its home, whatever. But, like, with both this one and also with the Mudhorn that the Jawas wanted him to kill in season 1, like, these are just creatures living their own lives, like, not bothering anyone until either some Jawas or a Yoda is like, oh, hey, your eggs look tasty. Nom, nom, nom. I could really
oh my god, it's eggs.
I could really deal with us not, like,
so much in the series.
Angering some, like, not very aggressive creature and then having them go, super aggro and killing them. So,
yeah.
Anyway, we'll see. Hopefully we get some Moff Gideon action coming up pretty soon. Certainly, I mean, he's still dragging around that Mandalorian armor, so something's going to happen with that pretty soon.
Yeah. He's on a different planet, though, so, Boba Fett is gone at this point.
Yeah.
I hope when they get to Frog Planet, From's like, look, Dad, Frog Dad, we have all 27. Wait a minute. Why is there only 17 eggs in here?
Oh, yeah. Right.
Like, because you think she didn't count those?
Has she not been counting?
Oh, she was counting.
Yeah.
I'd be like, maybe you left some in the pool of hot water that you decided to take a tubby in.
You know what? Having her right at that moment just be like, get your ass up and get to work on the ship. I'm going to take a bath.
I'm going to go hit the jacuzzi. Like, what?
Like, who, what now?
Yeah.
I thought it was all about, like, keeping them warm and stuff like that. And quite understand why the thing they were in didn't keep them warm. But,
Yeah.
I'm not asking questions. Anyway.
Folks,
listening in, what do you all think? Definitely love to hear from you. As you heard, we got some great feedback. You can find us on email, on Twitter or Facebook. All that can be found by going to strandedpanda.com and then clicking on the Star Wars Universe podcast, which is the two crossed microphones as lightsabers in front of the rebellion symbol.
Mike Sabers.
Exactly. On there, also, you can find a lot of other great podcasts, and with both myself, on which myself, Jeff, and Ashley are all often hosts or co-hosts or guests, covering everything from the MCU to Star Wars, Star Trek, the Orville, DC Universe, and a lot of other great things on Pandavision, like Lovecraft and The Boys, and now Hellstrom. Is that how you pronounce it?
Mm-hmm.
Hellstrom,
yeah. Which Matt and Ashley have been putting out episodes for. One special request, though, that I have to make is that we're trying to really boost the numbers for this podcast right now, especially with The Mandalorian coming out and it being so popular. The best thing you can do to help get more people to listen to the podcast, bring more people into the conversation, give more feedback for us to talk about, and just really help us out is to write us a review. If you can go to iTunes or anywhere else where people write reviews for podcasts, hopefully you think we deserve 5 stars. But if you don't, let us know that too. But if you really like this podcast and want to help share it, go to there, leave us a 5-star review, tell us why you like it so much. Because the thing is, the way if someone just types in, like, I want a podcast about The Mandalorian, iTunes and the other ones, they decide which ones to show you first based on some crazy algorithm they have. And one big part of that is how many people have recently given it a review. So it'd be a great way to help us out, great way to help improve the conversations, bring more people into the conversation, and really just do a great thing. So on behalf of myself, Jeff, Ashley, thank you all for listening. Have a good day.
I have spoken.
Ooh, tee-hee.
Yub nub. Each up. Yub nub.